We're here today for sentencing after the defendant was found guilty of first-degree reckless homicide. He pled no contest to that charge.
5 years after brutally murdering his pregnant girlfriend, and now the murderer is grappling with the consequences of his crimes.
I know that words will not change anything. It doesn't matter what I say, they will not change their opinion, but I'm here and I will accept punishment.
I have the sad and horrific case of Rosaly Rodriguez and her unborn child out of Wisconsin, and how much time the murderer is spending behind bars. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. The remains of 25-year-old Rosaly Rodriguez and her unborn child were found in a suitcase at an abandoned Chippewa County farm in Wisconsin back in October of 2020. She'd been missing since that July. After murdering Rodriguez, her boyfriend, 27-year-old Jose Dominguez-Garcia, went on the run. In December of 2021, he was charged with murdering Rosaly and their unborn child. Nearly 2 years would pass, and in November of 2023, police in Missouri pulled over Dominguez-Garcia during a routine traffic stop, only to discover his connection to Rosaly's murder and the warrant for his arrest. The officer took him into custody. Now, typically, I would lay out all of the details of the case, but I'll let the judge do that. He went through the details at Dominguez-Garcia's sentencing after he pleaded no contest to the charges.
So normally I'd make a short statement about those, but I'm going to make a longer statement of the facts because I think it's important. We have the defendant's version only, and that is that he and the victim were fighting in his car, and he grabbed her by the throat, and while turning a corner, the car's momentum caused her strangulation and death. He advised at that time the victim was pregnant, and we're not sure who the father is. This occurred on or about July 2nd, 2020. The victim's body was found badly decomposed in a rural Chippewa County area on or about October 14th, 2020. Backing up to the date the crime was committed, it appears that after that date, the defendant sought to make the disappearance not recognized by the parties. In fact, he wanted the family to know that she was still alive. To do that, he used her phone to simulate calls between himself and the victim to friends and family, indicating that she was alive. He did go on to retrieve and cash her paychecks. He went ahead and changed her bank access card and took money out of her account, changed her PIN number, removed money from her account. He picked up her paychecks, used debit cards to buy gas, and stay in hotels. In addition, after the death, the defendant checked out various websites looking to see how long it would take for a human body to decompose, how to get into Mexico, sought out storage units, sought out housing in Mexico. At some point, he moved to Missouri, found a new girlfriend, started a family with her, has a daughter there. Finally, on November 23rd of 23, he was arrested on warrants that had been issued here in Chippewa County on August 18th, 2020. Initially, he was charged with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, one for Rosaly, one for the child. He pled to first-degree reckless homicide. I do note that the medical examiner could not determine a cause of death. Did indicate there was no bone damage, although the defendant, I will note, did tell his new girlfriend in Missouri that he shot the victim between the eyes.
I want to tell you about a free app that I've tried. It's called Upside. It gives you cash back on things that you use each day, like gas, groceries, and takeout. You can transfer the cash you get back straight into your bank account. When I pump gas or I go to Dunkin' for a cup of tea, I use Upside. I've even used it when I order pizza. Here's how it works. Download Upside, claim an offer for whatever you're buying, and pay as usual using a debit or credit card. Follow the steps and get paid. It's that easy. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code CRIMEFIX to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's promo code CRIMEFIX for an extra 25 cents back on your first tank of gas. The judge then heard victim impact statements. The first one came from Rosaly's father.
I find myself in front of a criminal, the murderer of my daughter, Jose Eduardo Dominguez-Garcia.
Ellos eran esposos, son casados de acuerdo a la ley,
They were husband and wife. They were married according to the law.
pero él se convirtió en un criminal. Lamentablemente me arrancó el tesoro más grande de mi vida.
But he became a criminal, and sadly, he ripped off from me the biggest treasure of my life.
Que es mi hija Rosaly.
And that's my daughter, Rosaly.
Pero dentro de eso, señor juez, este criminal no tuvo compasión,
But Your Honor, this criminal had no compassion.
no valoró la vida de un ser humano,
He didn't put any value in human life,
de su propia hija o hijo que estaba en camino.
not even for his own daughter or son that was on the way.
A raíz de eso, señor juez, yo le llamé reiteradas veces, le dije, tú eres responsable de mi hija.
I called him repeatedly and I told him, "You're responsible for my daughter.
¿Dónde está mi hija?
Where's my daughter?"
Antes de eso, le llamaba a su teléfono una y otra vez. Este criminal no quiso contestar.
So before that, I would call on the phone over and over, and this criminal wouldn't answer.
Y al final me contestó, no, suegrito, tu hija se fue a su casa de su amiga.
And at the end, he finally answered and he said, "No, dear father-in-law, your daughter just went to visit a friend."
Llevando su bolso, pasaporte, acta de nacimiento.
She took her passport, her purse, and her birth certificate.
Entonces yo le dije a este criminal, le dije, ¿dónde está mi hija?
So I told this criminal, "Where's my daughter?
Tú sabes dónde está mi hija, tú eres el esposo.
You know where she's at. You're the husband."
Entonces este criminal me dice, no, suegrito, yo ya, nuestra relación ya terminé.
He said, "No, father-in-law, our relationship is over."
Después de 20 días, recién nos comunica de que ya había terminado la relación.
And after 20 days, he finally said, "No, the relationship is over."
A raíz de eso le dije, tarde o temprano, te voy a ver en la corte, porque tú eres el responsable como esposo de mi hija.
And because of that, I said, "Sooner or later, I will see you in court because you are the responsible as the husband of my daughter."
During his statement, Rosaly's father talked about the type of woman she was.
And my daughter came to this beautiful country, the country of the 7 wonderful things. She came here with the goal. She had her mindset. She went to the university, San Martin. She was a professional. She was an expert in tourism.
Como vino con esa profesión ilusionada a mi hija, papá, voy a ir, voy a sacarlo adelante a mi hija acá.
She came with dreams. She said, "Dad, I'm coming here. I'm going to get a better life for you."
Nos despedimos en el aeropuerto.
We said goodbye at the airport
Un 29 de noviembre del 2018.
on November 29, 2018.
Papito, voy a ir, vamos a sacarlo para adelante. Cuida el bebé. Ella va a ser tu bastón.
She said, "Daddy, I'm leaving. We're going to go for a better life. Please take care of the baby. She's going to be your support."
Fíjese cómo anunció a mi hija las cosas, quizás no estaba diciendo, sin saber, sin presagiar de que esto iba a suceder.
Maybe my daughter, without knowing, had a bit of an idea what was going to happen because of what she said to me.
Hay veces me pregunto, ¿en qué momento se le cruzó este criminal que no tuvo compasión?
I wonder at what time this criminal came across her path that had no compassion and ripped her off from me.
Mi hija era una señorita de 23 años, madre soltera, no lo niego. ¿Por qué? Porque yo la conozco a mi hija muy bien, por dentro y por fuera.
My daughter was a 23-year-old young lady. She was a single mother. I won't deny that. I knew her inside out. I knew her very well.
Era responsable, luchaba por la ley que nos dejó.
She was very responsible. She was providing for her daughter that stayed with us.
Como vino por la universidad como estudiante, así como muchos de otros países vienen y nos abren la puerta a este país maravilloso, con esa ilusión, con triunfos, con esperanza para sacar adelante a nuestra familia y servir a la sociedad.
And she came to this country with big dreams, just as many other people come here to be a student with better hopes, to be a good citizen and move to a better life.
Pero lamentablemente alguien se le cruzó en mal momento, un criminal que no tiene compasión.
But sadly, she crossed paths with a criminal that had no compassion.
Por todo eso estoy aquí presente,
And that's the reason that I'm here today.
pidiendo justicia.
I'm asking for justice.
Then Rosaly's sister addressed the court about the defendant's shocking betrayal.
I lost my sister, and my whole family fell into pieces.
Era a mi sobrina sin papá, hoy en día sin mamá.
And I see my niece that she doesn't have a father, and now she doesn't have a mother.
Y alejada de toda mi familia,
And she's
sin
apart.
tener un día de la madre, un día del padre, una Navidad, un año nuevo.
And she's apart. She's far away from the rest of the family. She cannot celebrate Mother's Day, Father's Day, or Christmas, or anything.
Ya no es como antes, venir aquí, siempre buscando a mi hermana, a sus amistades,
It's
por
not.
internet, por las redes sociales.
It's not the same anymore to come here and look for my sister and be with her friends and look her online.
Nunca me van a devolver a mi hermana.
I'm not ever going to get my sister back.
After hearing victim impact statements, Garcia Dominguez's attorney spoke on his behalf.
We are here today because Jose Dominguez-Garcia has pled to and been convicted of the charge of first-degree reckless homicide. He has acknowledged that he engaged in criminally reckless conduct that was so utterly unreasonable that it resulted in the tragedy of a lifetime. I can tell the court that when the proposal was made to resolve the case in this way, there was not much hesitation on our end to accept it. It wasn't a case full of negotiated haggling and you give us this, we'll take that. It was not like that. We received this offer, we accepted it in relatively quick fashion because, frankly, it's a result that Mr. Dominguez-Garcia knew was consistent with the truth.
Then Chippewa County District Attorney Wade Newell made his recommendation for a lengthy prison sentence.
I understand that the father wants there to be life without possibility of parole. We all know that's not possible. But what is possible is a statutory maximum of 60 years, 40 years of initial confinement, followed by 20 years of extended supervision. That is possible. That is the statutory maximum. That's within the range of what is allowed by this court, and it is warranted in this particular case. Obviously, when you look at any sort of case, you look at what's the worst scenario that you could have, with a first-degree reckless homicide, and what's the least worst sort of situation. I think when it involves both the taking of the life of the victim and her unborn child, that puts it on the very aggravated side of that spectrum, and that the 40 years is appropriate. Obviously, no one in this matter is asking for probation, but the law does require that we look at probation as the first possible option. And I don't think anyone disagrees with the fact that probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the crime. My recommendation is not based upon the emotions of the family. While I'm very sensitive to the victims that spoke, and what they said is this can't be an emotion-based sentence. It has to be a legally based sentence based upon the totality of the circumstances and the factors the courts to determine. But I believe a recommendation of just 60 years of initial time in prison for 2 lives lost under these circumstances by this individual with this character would not be just. I think what is just would be for the defendant to be held accountable for the 2 lives that he took, and the fact that he has probably to this day never come totally honest and clean with what he did in this matter. What he does is do stuff to protect Jose, and only worried about Jose and not about anyone else.
Then Dominguez-Garcia's attorney argues for a much shorter punishment with less prison time, followed by probation.
Our recommendation for 20 years of 16 years of initial confinement, followed by 4 years extended supervision, will punish Mr. Dominguez-Garcia. That is a straight incarceration sentence based on truth in sentencing, with no chance for substance abuse program or the challenge incarceration program. That will punish him. That is a sentence that is in line with what the legislature has authorized the court to do in a case like this. I think it's worth pointing out that the state's recommendation of 40 years, quite frankly, would be greater than that of someone who was convicted of first-degree intentional homicide.
Ahead of sentencing him, Judge Isaacson gave Jose Dominguez-Garcia an opportunity to make a statement of his own.
Yeah, I would love to speak to the court about it, and I read the statements from the family, and I paid attention to everything, and I want to tell the mother of Rosaly that everything happened on July 2nd at 10:30 p.m. I know that words will not change anything. It doesn't matter what I say, they will not change their opinion, but I'm here and I will accept the punishment. And I really feel bad for the family. I want to tell them that I feel so sorry, and I think that's all. What can I say?
Now let's listen as Judge Isaacson announces the sentence.
I think the fact that you were on the run for 4 years speaks volumes about your character. Confinement is necessary. Everybody agrees with that. Correctional treatment in custody. I'd like to think anger management would be appropriate. And as I've got to address this, but it's just in passing. To even consider probation unduly depreciates the seriousness of this offense. I read through these things, folks, the victim impact statements, and I understand dad and sister's concern. How do you tell a 9-year-old her mother was murdered? How do you tell a 9-year-old her mom's not coming back? I don't have an answer for that. But Mr. Dominguez-Garcia, I think that the appropriate sentence here is 40 years in the system, 25 in, 15 out. I will note that that's more than the PSI writer indicated, but I think it warrants, your actions warrant your responsibility to the crime, I think that all warrants that sentence.
Following the hearing, Rosaly's father shared his mixed emotions and feelings about the sentence imposed by Judge Isaacson.
Soy papá de Rosaly Chavarría. Yo diría, el juez está a favor nuestro, pero yo quería, me hubiera gustado la pena más alta, pero somos respetuosos de las leyes de aquí. Como dejó huérfana a mi pequeña que está en Perú, como le dije, no tuvo compasión. Ojalá que le caiga, o ya le cayó todo el peso de la ley. Él nunca pensó de que se iba a escapar, a pesar que se ha escapado, pensó que nunca le iban a capturar. Pero al fin se dio esta sentencia, solamente que se pudre en la cárcel. Y gracias por todo. Mi bebé, Rosaly, que descanse en paz, pero Jehová Dios que lo tenga en su gloria. Te amo, hijita. Eso, gracias por todo.
The court ordered that Rosaly's remains be released to her family. They want to have a funeral for her in Peru. As for Dominguez-Garcia, he is ordered to spend the next 25 years in prison, and after that, he'll spend 15 years on extended supervision after serving his prison time. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thank you so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.